3 months had passed since the battle at Heston 7. The Horizon's Promise now orbited New Haven, a human colony world with rolling green hills and blue oceans that reminded Do-hyun of Earth. The diplomatic situation across the galaxy had finally stabilized. After weeks of tense negotiations, Emperor Theron had been forced to abdicate by the Velkari ruling council. The evidence of his conspiracy with the Kryn, combined with Admiral Corrin's testimony and the support of several noble families, had left him no choice. He now lived in exile on a remote Velkari outpost, his power stripped away. Empress Kale had taken the throne and immediately opened formal peace talks with humanity. Do-hyun stood in the quarters he now shared with Myra, adjusting his formal uniform. Today was the wedding ceremony, but his mind was elsewhere. Something had been troubling Myra for the past week, and she wouldn't tell him what. "You look handsome," Myra said from the doorway. She wore a dress that blended Velkari and human styles, deep purple silk with delicate embroidery. She was more beautiful than ever, having settled into her body with confidence. The crew's acceptance and proper nutrition had changed her in ways that went beyond physical. "You look worried," Do-hyun countered. "Myra, what's wrong? You've been distant lately." She entered the room and sat on their bed, her hands folded in her lap. "I received a message from Kale yesterday. She didn't just invite us to the wedding as guests." Do-hyun sat beside her. "What did she offer?" "A position. Ambassador between humanity and the Velkari Empire." Myra looked at him. "It's a tremendous honor. I would represent both peoples, help build the peace we fought for. I would have resources, staff, diplomatic immunity, and I would be stationed on Velkara Prime, the Velkari homeworld." Understanding dawned on Do-hyun. "You'd have to leave the ship." "Leave the crew. Leave you," Myra said softly. "That's the part I can't resolve in my mind. This position is everything I studied for, everything I wanted to be. I could make a real difference. But it means giving up the life I've built here." Do-hyun took her hands. "What do you want, Myra? Not what you should want. Not what would make the best political sense. What does your heart want?" "I want both," she admitted. "I want to do important work, and I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to represent my people, and I want to have movie nights with Hana, and listen to Minho's terrible jokes and help Suman with her star charts." Tears formed in her eyes. "How do I choose?" "Maybe you don't have to," Do-hyun said slowly, an idea forming. "What if we proposed something different? What if you became ambassador, but you're stationed on a human ship that travels between our worlds? You'd still be doing the diplomatic work, but you'd have a home base with the crew." "With me," Myra looked up. "Would humanity accept that? Would Kyle?" "There's only one way to find out." 2 hours later, they stood in the New Haven Capitol building with Empress Kyle appearing via hologram, along with human representatives from Earth's diplomatic corps. Do-hyun and Myra presented their proposal together. "The position of ambassador is traditionally stationary," one of the human diplomats said. "You're suggesting something unprecedented." "Everything about this alliance has been unprecedented," Myra replied. "I'm Velkari royalty who committed treason to save human lives. Empress Kale is a ruler who overthrew her own father for honor. Captain Kim is a human who saw value in someone her own people rejected. Why should our diplomatic corps be traditional?" Empress Kale leaned forward in her holographic projection. "Sister, are you certain this is what you want? You would have prestige on Velkara Prime. Here you'd be traveling constantly, living in cramped quarters on a starship." "Those cramped quarters are home," Myra said firmly. "The crew of the Horizon's Promise is my family. And Do-hyun is my heart. I won't abandon them for prestige." Kyle smiled, something genuine and warm. "Then I approve. Let the ambassador travel the stars, building bridges between our peoples from the deck of a ship that represents the best of both our worlds." The human diplomats conferred briefly, then nodded. "Agreed. Ambassador Myra Kim will be based on the Horizon's Promise, with authority to negotiate on behalf of both humanity and the Velkari Empire." After the meeting ended, Do-hyun and Myra walked through the gardens of New Haven. The ceremony would begin in an hour, and they had this brief moment of peace together. "Kim," Myra said thoughtfully. "I like the sound of it." "Ambassador Myra Kim." "You don't have to take my name," Do-hyun said. "You're a princess." "I'm your wife," Myra corrected. "Or I will be in an hour. And I want to share your name, your life, all of it." She stopped walking and turned to face him. "Do you ever regret this? The arranged marriage, the complications, all the chaos I brought into your life?" Do-hyun cupped her face gently. Every day I'm grateful your father was foolish enough to send you to me. He meant it as an insult, sending his worst daughter to match our worthlessness. Instead, he gave me exactly what I needed. Someone who understood being underestimated, someone strong enough to risk everything for what's right, someone I could love. I love you too, Myra whispered. So much it frightens me sometimes. Good, Do-hyun said. Love should be a little frightening. It means it matters. The wedding ceremony took place in the gardens at sunset. The crew of the Horizon's Promise attended, along with representatives from both human and Velkari governments. Admiral Corrin stood in attendance, proud as any father. Empress Kale watched via hologram, tears in her eyes as she saw her sister truly happy for the first time. The ceremony blended traditions from both cultures. Myra and Do-hyun exchanged vows in both Standard English and the Velkari language. They shared food, symbolizing nourishment and support. They joined hands in the human tradition and touched foreheads in the Velkari custom. When Ji-won, officiating as ship's ambassador, pronounced them married, the gathered crowd erupted in cheers from two species celebrating unity. At the reception, Minho gave a speech that was surprisingly touching, talking about how Myra had become essential to their crew family. Hana presented them with a gift, seeds from both Earth and Velkara to plant together. Sumin, usually reserved, hugged Myra tightly and whispered, "Thank you for choosing us." As the evening grew late, Do-hyun and Myra slipped away to the observation deck of the Horizon's Promise. They stood together, looking out at the stars, hands intertwined. "What are you thinking?" Myra asked. "I'm thinking about Yoonji," Do-hyun admitted, wondering if she's watching somehow, if she approves. "Tell me about her," Myra said gently. "Really tell me. I want to know the woman who helped make you who you are." So Do-hyun talked about his first wife, about her laugh and her kindness and the way she made everything feel possible, about how her death had broken something in him that he thought could never heal. And Myra listened, not jealous but grateful, because that love had shaped the man she had fallen for. "She would have liked you," Do-hyun said finally. "She believed everyone deserved to be seen for who they truly are." "Then I wish I could have known her," Myra said. "And I promise to honor her memory by taking care of you." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Tomorrow they would begin their work as ambassadors, traveling between worlds to build the peace they had fought for. There would be challenges ahead, people who doubted their union, politicians who would test their resolve. But tonight they were simply two people who had found each other against impossible odds. "Do you know what the crew calls us?" Myra asked with a small smile. "What?" "The Emperor's mistake," she said. "Because you're what he accidentally gave humanity when he meant to insult us." Do-hyun laughed. "I like that. The Emperor sent his fat daughter as a joke, thinking we'd reject you. Instead, we gained the most brilliant xenobiologist in known space, a fierce advocate for honor, and the woman I love. Some joke. Some joke indeed," Myra agreed, resting her head on his shoulder. Below them, New Haven turned slowly in the night. Above them, the galaxy spread out in all its vast beauty, and between them, two hearts beat in rhythm, proof that love could bridge any divide, overcome any prejudice, and transform any insult into joy. The Horizon's Promise would leave orbit tomorrow, carrying Ambassador Myra Kim and Captain Do-hyun Kim back into the stars. They had work to do, peace to build, and a future to create together. But for now, in this perfect moment, they simply held each other and watched the universe turn. Their story had begun with cruelty and calculation, with an emperor's mockery and a political trap. It had survived betrayal and battle, fear and doubt, and it had become something beautiful, something real, something worth fighting for. In the end, that was the most human thing of all. Taking what was meant to hurt and transforming it into hope, seeing value where others saw only shame, building love from the ruins of hate. The stars shone down on them, and they shone back. Two lights joined as one, proving that sometimes the greatest treasures come disguised as insults, and the best jokes are the ones that backfire into happiness. The bridge of the Horizon's Promise was silent except for the steady beep of sensors. Every senior officer stood at their station, watching Princess Myra as she prepared to broadcast her message. She stood in the center of the bridge, her posture straight despite the fear Do-hyun could see in her eyes. She had changed into formal Velkari robes, the deep purple fabric marking her royal status. "All channels open, Princess. Suman reported. You'll be broadcasting across every Valkyrie military frequency and civilian network. They won't be able to ignore this, Myra nodded. She looked at Do-hyun once and he gave her an encouraging nod. Then she began to speak, her voice clear and strong. I am Princess Myra, third daughter of Emperor Theron. I speak to all Valkyrie on this day with a heavy heart but clear conscience. My father has betrayed the sacred bonds of honor that define our people. He arranged my marriage to Captain Do-hyun Kim, not as a true alliance, but as a trap meant to humiliate humanity and provide excuse for war. On the screen before them, they could see the message spreading across Valkyrie networks. Shock registered on alien faces throughout the Empire. Myra continued, I have evidence of his conspiracy with the Kryn Collective to attack human colonies. He plans to declare my marriage invalid, claim humanity broke faith, and justify conquest. This is not honor. This is not the Valkyrie way. I call upon Admiral Corrin and all military personnel who value truth over tyranny to uphold the alliance as it was meant to be. Not as a trap, but as genuine partnership. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was softer but no less determined. I know that by speaking these words I commit treason in my father's eyes. I can never return home. But I have found honor among humans that I never knew in my father's court. I have found acceptance, friendship, and love. If that makes me a traitor, then I accept that judgment. The broadcast ended. For a moment, no one on the bridge spoke. Then Jiwon broke the silence. It's done. The entire Valkyrie Empire just heard a princess call her emperor a liar. Now we wait, Do-hyun said, moving to stand beside Myra. She was trembling slightly, and he took her hand. They didn't have to wait long. Alarms blared across the bridge. Multiple Kryn vessels entering the system, Suman shouted. They're surrounding the colony on Heston 7. Captain, they're opening fire. The view screen changed to show the human colony under attack. The Kryn ships were massive and brutal in design, their weapons tearing through the colony's shields. Heston 7 held 15,000 civilians, families who had settled on the frontier world just 3 years ago. Battle stations, Do-hyun ordered. Get me a connection to the Kryn commander. A face appeared on screen, reptilian and cold. Human vessel, this colony now belongs to the Kryn Collective. Emperor Theron of the Valkyrie has granted us rights to this space. Withdraw or be destroyed. The Emperor has no authority over human colonies, Do-hyun said coldly. Cease your attack immediately. The Kryn commander laughed. You are a lone human. We are 12 ships. Your princess's broadcast changes nothing. The Valkyrie fleet follows their emperor, not a disgraced daughter. You will watch your colony burn and then you will die. The connection cut off. Do-hyun turned to his tactical officer. Weapon status? Armed and ready, Captain. But sir, he's right. We're 1 ship against 12. Even if we fight perfectly, we can't stop them all. Myra gripped Do-hyun's hand tighter. This is my fault. My father moved his timeline up because of my broadcast. No, Do-hyun said firmly. This was always his plan. We just forced him to act sooner. He addressed the bridge. We're not abandoning those colonists. We engage the Kryn fleet and buy time for them to evacuate. Maybe we get lucky. Captain, Suman's voice was urgent. New contacts entering the system. Valkyrie signatures. It's a battle fleet. 20 ships, everyone held their breath. This was it. Would the Valkyrie fleet join the Kryn against them? Or had Myra's message reached someone willing to act? A new face appeared on the view screen. The Valkyrie officer was older, his features sharp but his eyes kind. When he saw Myra, his expression softened. Little Myra, he said gently. You've grown brave. Admiral Corrin, Myra whispered. You came. You spoke truth, Corrin said simply. I checked the evidence you transmitted with your broadcast. Your father has dishonored himself in our empire. The Valkyrie fleet stands with humanity today. He looked at Do-hyun. Captain Kim, permission to engage the Kryn? Relief flooded through Do-hyun. Granted with gratitude, Admiral. What followed was chaos. The Valkyrie fleet engaged the Kryn with devastating efficiency. The Horizon's Promise joined the battle, targeting the Kryn ships closest to the colony. Myra remained on the bridge, watching as Valkyrie and human forces fought side by side. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it ended, 8 Kryn ships were destroyed and the remaining 4 fled into hyperspace. Not a single shot had hit the colony. Heston 7 was safe, but the victory came with a price. Admiral Corrin's face reappeared on the screen, this time looking grim. Captain Kim, Princess Myra, you should know that Emperor Theron has declared all ships under my command traitors. He has ordered the rest of the Velkari military to hunt us down. Then we fight together, Do-hyun said. Humanity won't abandon its allies. We may have started a civil war, Korin warned. No, Myra said, stepping forward. My father started this when he chose dishonor over duty. Admiral, what are your fleet's casualties? Minimal. We took the Kryn by surprise. Korin studied her face. Myra, your sister Kale sent me a private message during the battle. She wants to speak with you. Myra's eyes widened. Kyle? But she's father's favorite. She must hate me now. Perhaps you should hear what she has to say, Korin suggested. Minutes later, Princess Kale's face appeared on a private channel to Myra's quarters. Do-hyun stood beside Myra, his hand on her shoulder for support. Kale looked like Myra might have if she had been born to Velkari standards. Tall, thin, angular. But her eyes held something Do-hyun hadn't expected. Shame. Myra, Kale said quietly. I owe you an apology. Many apologies. I was blind to father's cruelty toward you. I thought he was simply strict, demanding excellence. I didn't see how he treated you differently, how he used you. Myra's hand found Do-hyun's. Why now, Kale? Your broadcast made me investigate. I found evidence of father's plots, his conspiracy with the Kryn, his plans to use your marriage as a weapon. Kyle's voice was heavy. I am ashamed I didn't see it sooner. I am ashamed I didn't protect my sister. What will you do? Myra asked. I'm calling a council of the Velkari ruling families. With the evidence you've provided and Admiral Korin's testimony, I believe we can force father to abdicate. Kyle paused. It won't be easy. He has supporters. But honor demands he face consequences for his actions. And if you succeed? Myra pressed. If father is removed? Then I will be Empress, Kale said softly. And my first act will be to formally apologize to humanity and offer true alliance. Not the false bond father created, but genuine partnership. She looked at her sister with sadness. I know you can never come home now, but perhaps someday you might visit. As honored guests, you and your human family. After the call ended, Myra sat quietly for a long time. Do-hyun didn't push her to speak. Finally, she looked up at him. Everything is changing so fast. Yes, he agreed. I have no home now except this ship. No family except your crew. Is that enough? Do-hyun asked gently. Myra smiled through tears. It's everything. I just needed a moment to mourn what I've lost, even though I know I've gained so much more. Do-hyun pulled her into his arms and she let herself cry. Outside, the stars turned slowly. The battle was won, but the larger war for peace had just begun. Soo-min Lee burst into Captain Do-hyun's ready room without knocking, her face pale. It was 3 a.m. by ship time, and Do-hyun had been reviewing supply reports, unable to sleep. He stood immediately at the look on her face. What's wrong? Message from Emperor Theron, Soo-min said, her voice tight with anger. Encrypted channel. He thought he was communicating with Velkari operatives, but I cracked their codes weeks ago. She handed him her tablet. You need to see this, Captain. But I warn you, it's bad. Do-hyun took the tablet and watched the recorded message. Emperor Theron's face filled the screen, his expression smug with satisfaction. The translation scrolled beneath his words. The human captain has accepted my worthless daughter as predicted. These humans are so desperate for alliance, they'll accept any insult disguised as honor. Princess Myra reports that the crew treats her well, which only confirms their weakness. The Emperor's laugh was cruel. Let them grow comfortable. Let the captain think he's won some prize. When the time comes, I'll declare the marriage invalid. Some invented slight, some failure to meet our customs. The humans will be shamed, their honor broken. Then we approach the Kryn Collective with the full weight of Velkari military might. Together we'll divide human space between us. The message continued with more details about troop movements and strategic planning. When it ended, Do-hyun set the tablet down carefully, his hands shaking with controlled rage. He's been planning this from the beginning, Soo-min said. The marriage was always meant to fail. And, Captain, there's more. The Kryn have already positioned their fleets near human colonies. They're just waiting for Theron's signal. Do-hyun paced the small room, his mind racing. Does Myra know? No, sir. The message came directly to me. Soo-min hesitated. Captain, I know you care about her. But she's Velkari royalty. We can't be sure where her loyalties lie. Her father calls her worthless and uses her as a pawn. Do-hyun said sharply. I think her loyalties are clear. He stopped pacing and looked at Soo-min. We have to tell her. She deserves to know. It will break her heart, sir. I know. Do-Hyun's voice was heavy. But I won't lie to her. We've built something real, and it can't be based on deception. An hour later, Do-Hyun sat in Myra's quarters. She was wearing human-style sleeping clothes now, a soft shirt and pants that Hana had given her. She looked comfortable and at home, and Do-Hyun's heart ached at what he was about to do. Myra, there's something you need to see. He showed her the message. He watched as her expression changed from confusion to pain to something harder, like steel forming in fire. When it ended, tears ran down her face, but she didn't sob. She just sat very still, staring at nothing. Myra, Do-Hyun said softly. I knew he didn't love me, she said, her voice distant. But I thought perhaps he felt some duty toward me, some basic care for his own daughter. She looked at Do-Hyun. He's using my reports, the ones I sent about how kind everyone has been. He's using my words against humanity. This isn't your fault, isn't it? Myra stood, wrapping her arms around herself. I've been so happy here. So grateful for acceptance that I never questioned anything. I should have suspected. I should have known my father would never simply give me away without some plan. Do-Hyun stood and moved closer to her. Myra, look at me. When she did, he took her hands. Your father's cruelty doesn't diminish what we've built here. What we feel, that's real, is it? Fresh tears spilled over. How can you be sure? How do I know I'm not just grateful for kindness? How do you know you're not just being honorable because you're a good man who won't abandon someone in need? It was the fear they'd both voiced before, now magnified by betrayal. Do-Hyun squeezed her hands gently. Ask me anything. Ask me what I was thinking when you laughed at Minho's terrible jokes last week. Ask me what I feel when you get excited about your research. Ask me why I can't sleep anymore without thinking about you. Myra searched his face. Tell me. When you laugh, I feel like the whole ship lights up. When you talk about science, I could listen forever even though I barely understand half of it. Just to watch your face. And I can't sleep because I'm falling in love with you, Myra. Really, truly falling in love. Not obligation. Not pity, love. She closed her eyes. I'm falling in love with you too. That's what makes this so terrible. My father will use that against both of us. Then we don't let him. Do-Hyun's voice was firm. We knew this marriage was political. Now we know it's also a trap. So we spring the trap on our own terms. Myra pulled back slightly. What do you mean? Your father expects us to wait for him to declare the marriage invalid. He expects us to be humiliated and powerless. Do-Hyun's mind was already working through possibilities. What if we act first? What if we expose his plan? I'd be declaring treason against the Valkyrie Empire, Myra said slowly. I could never return home. I'd be hunted as an outcast, I know. Do-Hyun wouldn't minimize the cost, and humanity would be declaring your father an oath-breaker, which could still start a war. But at least it would be an honest fight, not this manipulation. Myra walked to her window looking out at the stars. For a long time she was silent. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady. I've spent my entire life trying to earn my father's love. Trying to be good enough, smart enough, valuable enough. Nothing I did ever mattered to him. She turned back to Do-Hyun. I'm done trying to earn love from someone who can't give it. Let me earn my own respect instead. You're sure? No, Myra admitted. I'm terrified. But I'm also angry. My father has used me my whole life. He sent me here meaning to humiliate me, and instead I found people who see my worth. I found you. She stepped close to him. I won't let him destroy that. I won't let him use me to hurt humanity. Do-Hyun cupped her face gently. You know what this means. You'll be choosing us over your own people. No, Myra said firmly. I'm choosing honor over corruption. I'm choosing the people who valued me over the ones who didn't. And yes, I'm choosing you. She stood on her toes and kissed him. It was their first real kiss. Not the formal touching of lips that Valkyrie custom required, but something deeper. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. So we fight, Myra said. Together, Do-Hyun agreed. They spent the rest of the night planning. Sumin joined them, bringing intelligence reports and communication protocols. Jiwon came next, her diplomatic expertise crucial for what they were about to do. By morning, they had a strategy. Myra would use her royal authority to broadcast a message throughout Valkyrie space, denouncing her father's dishonor and calling on the Valkyrie military to uphold the true spirit of their alliance. It was a desperate gamble. Most Valkyrie would likely side with their emperor. But Myra had one advantage her father didn't know about. Admiral Corrin was my friend when we were young, Myra explained. Before my father decided I was an embarrassment. Corrin always believed in honor above all else. If anyone in the Velkari fleet would listen, it's him. That's a big if, Suman pointed out. I know, Myra said, but it's our only chance. As dawn cycled through the ship's lighting, Do-Yun looked at this woman who was willing to betray her entire empire for honor, and for him. She stood straight and determined, no longer the frightened princess who had arrived weeks ago. She had found her strength and it was magnificent. Whatever happens, he told her, humanity will protect you. I will protect you. You'll always have a home with us, Myra smiled, and in that smile was both sadness and hope. Then I suppose I should get used to teokbokki and terrible human jokes. And late-night conversations in hydroponics bays, Do-Hyun added, and falling in love with stubborn captains, Myra finished softly. They had 12 hours before Emperor Theron's next scheduled communication with his operatives. 12 hours to prepare their counterstrike. 12 hours before everything changed. The first week passed in careful formality. Princess Myra kept to her quarters mostly, emerging only for scheduled meals with Captain Do-Hyun and meetings with Ambassador Jiwon about the marriage ceremony. The crew watched her with curiosity whenever she walked the corridors, but she kept her eyes down, her posture suggesting someone expecting rejection at any moment. Do-Hyun found himself thinking about her constantly, not in a romantic way, not yet, but with a growing concern that troubled his sleep. She reminded him of a wounded bird, beautiful but afraid to fly. During their formal dinners, she answered his questions politely but never volunteered information about herself. She ate very little, as if afraid of confirming her father's cruel assessment of her body. On the 8th day, Do-Hyun made a decision. Instead of summoning her to the officers' mess, he went to her quarters with 2 containers of food from the ship's galley. When she opened the door, surprise registered on her face. Captain Kim, is something wrong? I thought we might eat dinner somewhere different tonight, he said. The observation deck has an excellent view of the nebula we're passing. Have you seen it? She hadn't. 20 minutes later, they sat on the floor of the observation deck, the containers of food between them, surrounded by the purple and blue glow of the Serpent's Nebula. Myra stared at the view with wonder in her eyes. It's beautiful, she whispered. It is, Do-Hyun agreed. He opened the containers, revealing what the crew called comfort food. Rice-seasoned vegetables and spicy teokbokki. I'm not sure if you can eat this. Dr. Choi says our foods are compatible with Velkari biology, but taste is different. Myra took the chopsticks he offered, handling them awkwardly at first. She tried a small piece of teokbokki and her eyes widened. This is wonderful. It has so much flavor. She took another bite, then another. Velkari food is very bland. We eat for nutrition, not pleasure. This is different. Do-Hyun smiled, watching her eat with genuine enjoyment. My wife used to make teokbokki every Sunday, he said quietly. She said it was the food of celebration and comfort both. Myra paused. Ambassador Jiwon mentioned you were married before. I'm sorry for your loss. 3 years ago. An illness that came suddenly. Do-Hyun looked out at the nebula. I thought I'd never feel anything again after she died. I took this assignment because I needed to be far away from everything that reminded me of her. Does this marriage dishonor her memory? Myra asked softly. The question surprised him with its directness. No, he said after a moment. Yoonji would have wanted me to live, not just exist. She would have liked you, I think. You barely know me, Captain. Then help me know you, Do-Hyun said, turning to face her. Not Princess Myra, the diplomatic chess piece. Just Myra, tell me who you are. Something shifted in her expression. For a long moment she was silent, and Do-Hyun thought perhaps he had pushed too far. Then she began to speak. I have an older sister, Kael. She's perfect by Velkari standards. Tall, thin, sharp-featured, brilliant in military strategy. My father adores her. Myra's voice was steady, but pain colored each word. I was always compared to her. Why couldn't I be more like Kael? Why did I have to be soft, to prefer science over warfare, to love food and art and things my father called frivolous? She set down her chopsticks. When I was young, I tried everything to win his approval. I studied harder than anyone. I learned 6 languages. I became an expert in xenobiology, thinking perhaps my father would see value in that. But he only saw my body, my face, everything I wasn't. She looked at Do-hyun with those large, dark eyes. When he told me I would marry a human, I knew it was punishment. He was sending me away because I embarrassed him. Do-hyun felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. Then your father is a fool. Intelligence, compassion, curiosity, these things matter far more than anyone's idea of physical perfection. That's kind of you to say. It's not kindness. It's truth. Do-hyun reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and gently took her hand. I grew up in a small town in Korea. My father was a fisherman, my mother sold vegetables in the market. They had no education, no wealth, no status, but they taught me that people's worth comes from their character, not their appearance or position. Myra looked down at their joined hands. Her skin felt warm, the metallic shimmer soft like brushed silk. Your people value such things? The best of us do, Do-hyun admitted. We're not perfect. Humans can be cruel about appearance too, but we try to do better. The next few weeks transformed their relationship. Myra began spending time in the ship's xenobiology lab, working with the science team. Dr. Hana Choi quickly became her friend, impressed by Myra's knowledge and gentle teaching style. When a crew member fell ill with an alien pathogen, Myra worked for 18 hours straight to synthesize a cure, combining Velkari and human medical knowledge. The crew's attitude shifted from suspicion to respect. Myra remembered everyone's names, asked about their families, helped where she could. Navigation Officer Suman, initially the most skeptical, became fiercely protective after Myra helped her solve a complex stellar mapping problem that had frustrated her for months. Do-hyun found himself seeking Myra's company not from duty, but from genuine desire. They took meals together regularly now, and Myra had gained some weight from actually eating properly. She looked healthier, happier. Her laugh, when it came, was like music. One evening, they were in the hydroponics bay where Myra had started growing Velkari plants alongside human ones. She was explaining the biological differences with enthusiasm, her hands moving expressively as she spoke. Do-hyun realized he wasn't really listening to her words anymore. He was just watching her face, animated with passion for her subject and thinking how beautiful she was. The thought hit him like a physical force. He was falling in love with her, Captain. Are you all right? Myra had stopped talking, concern on her face. I'm fine, he said quickly. Please continue. And Myra, when we're alone, just call me Do-hyun. She smiled shyly. Do-hyun, she repeated, testing the name. It suits you. They were standing close together among the plants, the humid air around them thick with the scent of growing things. Do-hyun could see his own feelings reflected in her eyes. The attraction, the fear, the hope, but also doubt. This is more than duty for me, Myra said quietly. Being here with your crew, with you, I've never felt so accepted, so valued. I'm afraid it's not real, that I'm just grateful for kindness. And I'm afraid, Do-hyun admitted, that I'm betraying Eunji's memory by feeling things I thought I'd never feel again, that I'm taking advantage of your situation. Are you? Myra asked. Taking advantage? Do-hyun thought about it honestly. No. Every moment with you makes me feel alive again. You're brilliant, compassionate, and yes, beautiful. I'm not pretending, Myra. I care about you. Truly. Myra reached up and touched his face gently, her hand trembling slightly. I care about you too. You see me, Do-hyun. Not what I should be, but who I am. They stood there in the soft light of the hydroponics bay, surrounded by growing plants from two different worlds, and let themselves feel hope. Outside, the stars streamed past the ship. Inside, two lonely people found something neither had expected. That night, Do-hyun lay in his quarters thinking about the future. In 2 months, they would reach the neutral station, where the marriage ceremony would take place. What started as a political arrangement had become something real. He thought about Eunji and silently asked her forgiveness, though he knew she would have approved. In her quarters, Myra recorded a personal message to her sister Kale. She knew it was risky, that her father might intercept it, but she needed to tell someone from her old life that she had found happiness in the most unexpected place. Neither of them knew that Emperor Theron was already preparing his next move, or that their newfound happiness would soon be tested in ways they couldn't imagine. The diplomatic chamber aboard the Horizon's Promise hummed with tension. Captain Do-hyun Kim stood at the head of the conference table, his dark eyes fixed on the holographic projection of Emperor Theron. The alien ruler's face was angular and sharp, with skin that shimmered like polished metal under their world's twin suns. 6 months had passed since humanity made first contact with the Velkari Empire, and every moment of negotiation had been exhausting. Captain Kim, Emperor Theron's voice echoed through the chamber, translated perfectly by the ship's computers. Your people desire access to our trade routes. You wish to share in the prosperity of our empire. Do-hyun nodded carefully. We seek mutual benefit, Your Majesty. Humanity has much to offer in exchange. The Emperor's thin lips curved into something that might have been a smile. Beside Do-hyun, Ambassador Jiwon Park shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She had spent months studying Velkari customs, and something about the Emperor's expression troubled her. We have considered your proposal, Theron continued. The Velkari have a tradition for such alliances, a sacred bond that cannot be broken once formed. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. A marriage between our peoples. Jiwon's eyes widened. She leaned toward Do-hyun and whispered urgently, Captain, this is significant. Royal marriages in Velkari culture create unbreakable bonds. It's the highest honor they can offer. Do-hyun felt the eyes of his crew upon him. Chief Engineer Minho sat at the far end of the table, his weathered face showing concern. Navigation Officer Suman Lee had her hands clenched beneath the table. They all knew what this meant. Peace between their civilizations might depend on his answer. I am honored by your proposal, Do-hyun said slowly. Who would be joined in this union? Emperor Theron's smile grew wider. I shall send my daughter, Princess Myra, to become your bride. She will arrive within 2 weeks. Prepare your ship to receive royalty, Captain Kim. The hologram flickered and died. The moment the connection ended, the chamber erupted in conversation. Minho stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. Captain, you can't seriously be considering this. A political marriage to an alien? Jiwon was already working at her tablet, pulling up files on Velkari royal customs. This is incredible. The Emperor has children, but royal marriages are reserved for only the most important alliances. This means they truly value peace with humanity. Suman remained quiet, but her fingers moved rapidly across her console. As the ship's intelligence officer, she had access to communication channels that others did not. What she was reading made her blood run cold. Captain, Suman said quietly, I need to speak with you privately. 10 minutes later in the captain's ready room, Suman showed Do-hyun the intercepted messages. They were encrypted Velkari communications between the Emperor's advisors, laughing about the marriage arrangement. She's the fat one message read, undesirable by any standard. The Emperor sends his worst to match their worthlessness. Another message was even crueler. Princess Myra will embarrass herself in them. When the marriage fails, we can claim humanity broke the sacred bond. Then we align with the Kryn instead. Do-hyun read the messages twice, his jaw tightening. The insult was clear. Emperor Theron was mocking both his daughter and humanity in one calculated move. He expected the marriage to fail, giving him an excuse to break the alliance and side with humanity's rivals. What do we do, Captain? Suman asked. We can refuse the arrangement. Explain that we discovered his deception. Do-hyun leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. 3 years ago, his wife Yoonji had died from a sudden illness. The grief had nearly destroyed him. He had thrown himself into his work, accepting this deep space assignment to escape the memories. The idea of marriage again, even a political one, felt like betraying her memory. But this wasn't about him. This was about humanity's future in the galaxy. If they refused, the Velkari Empire would become their enemy. Millions of lives hung in the balance. We proceed, Do-hyun said finally. But we do it right. Princess Myra isn't responsible for her father's cruelty. She deserves respect and dignity, regardless of what her people think of her. Suman studied her captain's face. You're a better man than most, sir. I'm just tired of people being judged for the wrong reasons, Do-hyun replied. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of preparation. The crew cleaned and prepared quarters fit for a princess. The ship's medical officer, Hana Choi, studied Velkari biology to ensure they could accommodate their guests' needs. Some crew members grumbled about the arrangement, seeing it as humanity bowing to alien demands. Others were simply curious about what a Velkari princess would be like. Do-hyun spent his evenings reading everything available about Princess Myra. There was surprisingly little information. She rarely appeared in official Velkari records. No speeches, no diplomatic missions, no military service like her sister Princess Kale. It was as if the Empire tried to hide her existence. The day of her arrival came too quickly. Do-Yun stood in the docking bay with his senior officers, all wearing their dress uniforms. The crew lined the walls, curious eyes watching the airlock. When the doors finally opened, a collective intake of breath echoed through the chamber. Princess Myra was not what anyone expected. By Velkari standards, which valued angular features and extremely thin physiques, she would be considered overweight. Her body was softer, rounder, more substantial than the sharp-edged appearance of her father. But to human eyes, she was simply beautiful. Her skin had the same metallic shimmer as all Velkari, but hers seemed warmer somehow, like brushed gold instead of cold steel. Her eyes were large and dark, currently fixed on the floor as if afraid to meet anyone's gaze. She was accompanied by only 2 Velkari guards, another subtle insult. A favored princess would have arrived with an entire delegation. Do-Yun stepped forward and bowed in the Velkari fashion, his right hand over his heart. Princess Myra, welcome to the Horizon's Promise. I am Captain Do-Yun Kim. Myra looked up, surprise evident in her expression. Her voice was soft but clear, speaking perfect standard English. Captain Kim, thank you for receiving me. She turned to each of his officers and said their names one by one, thanking them personally. She had memorized every senior officer's name and rank. Jiwon looked impressed. Suman's expression softened slightly. Even Gruff Minho seemed touched by the gesture. Please allow me to show you to your quarters, Do-Yun said gently. You must be exhausted from your journey. As they walked through the corridors, Myra's hands trembled slightly at her sides. Do-Hyun noticed but said nothing. When they reached her quarters, he dismissed the others and stepped inside with her. Princess Myra, he began. I know why I was sent, she interrupted, her voice barely above a whisper. I know what my father thinks of me, and of your people. She finally looked directly at him, and Do-Hyun saw both pain and strength in her eyes. I understand if you wish to refuse this arrangement. Do-Hyun considered his words carefully. Then we're both underestimated, he said finally. Let's prove them wrong together. For the first time since arriving, Princess Myra smiled.